John, I feel like any other team in the league, and I'm not saying that it won't get there, but I feel like any other team in the league, and we saw this with LSU before, we've seen it in the past with Georgia, we've seen it in the past with Alabama, the big brands, not only in the conference, but in college football. When somebody tells you, yeah, they returned both of their tackles who started every game last year, that's generally oh, man, they're going to be pretty good up there. We haven't heard as much of that yet. Most everything revolves around Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, which is fine because they do have a superstar at quarterback. But I'm asking you as an offensive lineman, as a former really good offensive lineman at South Carolina who's got the accolades to prove it in a stint in the NFL, when you return 25 starts from 1 year ago and a guy who's been in the program as long as Cason Henry has, and a guy who's going to be just a sophomore, a true sophomore this year in Josiah Thompson.
Josiah Henry, all right.
No, maybe that'll be their combo name moving forward. Josiah Thompson. How do you interpret that? Like, how does that make you feel as kind of a guru of this group of guys?
All right. Well, coming from a guy like me, the mini camp in the NFL, just to get that out there. It was a short stint, but
10-year starter.
Yeah, right. No, I think your tackles, especially when it comes to pass pro, very important positions because that's where the majority of the pressure seems to come, and that's the toughest position when you're passing the ball. So when you got two tackles that have the experience that they have, that's a bright spot. And we're sitting here talking about the tackles. Yeah, they pretty much started every game last year, but let's not forget Boaz Stanley started at Troy, okay? And then you got Tree and Trevon that both have started a lot of games already here at South Carolina as well. Tree starting a game last year because Josiah was hurt. So, we have really good at playing experience along the offensive line this year. I really think they got a chance to be good. I really do. But, returning your left and right tackle, seasoned guys that have been through the SEC gauntlet is pretty big. And, Trevon Ball, he started, I don't know how many games his freshman year, but he's been through this gauntlet in the SEC before. Mm-hmm. And Tree has as well. I think that left guard position remains to be seen on who's going to start. Is it Tree? Is it somebody else? Don't know, but we got a lot of experience along the offensive line that's played a lot of football so far. So I'm super excited about this group to see what they can do this upcoming year.
Yeah, Josiah's 12, Cason's 13. Big Tree has 9 starts under his belt, but he's appeared in I think a total of like
a lot.
Yeah, 15 or 16 games or something like that. Trevon has appeared in more games than Big Tree, but he had 8 starts that year that you were referencing just a moment ago. And if Boaz Stanley ends up being the starter, it seems like it's certainly been trending that way. But we talked to Darren last week, Darren Usher, and he said, "Hey, look, love Boaz Stanley. This guy's got an incredibly bright future, but we don't just sign kids like they sign like Nick Sharp, for instance. Like we don't just sign kids for depth pieces. Like we sign them because we think they can play. So we're going to figure this out. And obviously Nick Sharp has extensive time, but let's just work under the assumption that maybe it is Boaz Stanley. He has 12 starts. He had 12 starts last year at Troy. He did start his collegiate career, I think, at Georgia Military, for what that's worth, and kind of got himself built up before he went on over there. So you're talking about 21, 33, 42, 54 career starts, but they're all pretty recent. It's not like these. Cason dealt with some injuries, but Trevon, has been in the program now for 2. This will be his 3rd year. Same thing with Big Tree, will be his 3rd year. Stanley's 1st year, Thompson's 2nd year, and this will be Cason's 2nd year of actually significant playing time. They're not just entering somebody in there like they did last year with Josiah and say he's incredibly talented. Let's work with the growing pains. What growing pains, though, are they going through that now, John, in the summer and then early on in camp? If you find your unit, these are our 5 guys. Is that where the growing pains are, just because they haven't played together, not because they don't understand the game of football at this level?
Yeah, it's all about gelling, right? as an offensive line, you need to be cohesive and gel together. So you really start getting that down. I think the first 2 weeks at camp, you'll kind of have a pretty good idea on who you think your starting five is going to be. And then you let those guys work those last 2 weeks together. And, it just kind of starts to gel. And I think it gels even more, especially after the first game. I think after the first game, you get through it. And this is true for all offensive lines. I think that's when you really start seeing a unit come together and you kind of know by that second game, all right, this is what we got. How good are they going to be? And really, it's a mental thing. Everybody talks about, physicality and all that, which is very true on the line of scrimmage. But as an offensive lineman, it's partly between the ears too.
Yeah.
It's a very mental game, and so I don't know. It just the communication along an offensive line is so important. It's just so important. Guys knowing where each other's going, making sure everybody's on the same page, making sure one guy in the huddle didn't hear something different than the other. So when you get to the line, it's good to communicate with each other and talk. That way, maybe if there's a misunderstanding right before the snap, somebody, no, this call, whatever. So that's very important is the mental side. And, I was lucky enough to talk to those guys during the spring. And I told them, it's about kicking other people's ass, but your mental game has to be strong because one screw up, one guy does something wrong, it blows up a whole play.
Makes the whole thing look terrible.
Yeah.
I want to use your eyeballs here. I always find it fascinating when I talk to you about anything, obviously with football, but certainly with the offensive line. I equate it to how I am with catchers. I watch catchers. I see so many things that a lot of people don't see. So I love to get your input from when you watch guys and what they do that everybody else doesn't notice. So I want Cam Pringle isn't here anymore, but I do want to start with Cam Pringle. It's hard to replace his size. There's not a lot of 6'8", 330-pound dudes just walking around town. But knowing the prospect that he was, I know you saw him play in practice and spring games and things like that. How difficult is that he was going to be? I know Darren hates this, and so does Shane Beamer. So my apologies to them. I don't think he was going to be a starter this year. I do think this year he was going to be, quote unquote, a depth piece, right? But it's important because you can't go down in a hurry up there. So what type of player do you feel like they lost in Cam Pringle? Like how valuable of how valuable was he to the personnel of this group?
Well, I think he was a possible backup at one of the tackle positions. I know he primarily played right tackle.
Right.
But, I mean, you got Shivers. I always screw that up.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of locked in as your backup right tackle.
Okay.
I just think it's a lock. So, do you miss an extra big body like him? Of course you do. Of course you do. Do I think he was ready to play from what I've seen and what I've been told? No, he was not. So it's always a blow to lose any depth piece. But I think with the other guys we already have in place for this coming year, I don't think it bothers us at all. Now, next year, yeah, I think it's a big blow because it would have been good for him to have another year of experience and then going into his third year. And then, hey, maybe he's competing for a starting position.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I've said this before, offensive line is very rare you come straight in and play. Very rare. It's the toughest position to come straight in and play, in my opinion. So the offensive line is a developmental position. Come in, preferably take your red shirt, and then just get better and better. I mean, that's what I did. I came in red-shirted, lettered my redshirt freshman year, played a lot. My redshirt sophomore year, I thought I was going to be the starter and at center my sophomore year, redshirt sophomore year, my third year, but didn't kind of work out. But I played a ton. And then my junior and senior year, I was a starter. So that's kind of like your perfect scenario for an offensive lineman. So with today's age, though, with the transfer portal and guys thinking they're better than they are and all this and that and NIL, it's kind of muddied the water on that. I've already said it publicly. I think Cam Pringle made a terrible decision doing what he did, but probably just had the wrong people in his ear. And unfortunately, he's not here anymore, so not really worried about it. Great kid, though. He's a great kid.